smaragd, which I think is supposed to be an emerald. Second row, carbuncle, sapphire. Oh, the second row is emerald. Sorry, so I don't know what a smaragd is. Third row, jacinth, agate, amethyst, and the fourth row, beryl, onyx, and jasper.
So you're describing the 12 stones in the breastplate.
In the breastplate, right. Now the Hebrew, let me see. Shoham. So they've translated Shoham as onyx.
Oh my goodness. Well, it refers to color then, for sure.
Usually it's black.
It looks, in the picture, it looks very, very black. I don't know
No.
if you can.
Yeah, onyx is. No,
So you know what this is reminding me of? Are you showing us the picture?
I'm going to try. It was easier last week when
Move it a little over to your right.
to my
And
right.
talk.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. So which one of those is it? The bottom middle?
The bottom middle
Yeah.
is the Shoham,
Yeah.
and they translated it as onyx.
Interesting. So you know what this is reminding me of? It's reminding me of the conversation. Was it in this class we had a conversation about sky versus heavens?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So the fact that we can't identify clearly whether this is blue or black is bringing me back to that conversation. The fact that we couldn't clearly identify where does the blue sky end and the black space begin. Right? Maybe it's intentionally unclear whether it's a blue or a black, or maybe it represents that space in between, if you will, right? So you know, Ayelet is named after, in the prophets, it talks about Ayelet HaShachar. Ayelet means the horns or the rays of sun, and it's specifically talking about the moment between night and morning, right? That sort of liminal state. And so I wonder if this stone isn't also suggesting sort of a liminal state of between, I don't know, between sky and heavens, between blue and black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We could sit here forever. So I suggest
Because
we go.
that, you know, the difference between the very dark blue and the black is an instant. It's, you know what I'm trying, not, you know, it's not, it could be a moment in time. It could be a space. It's just, it's a spark of an instant when something changes and becomes something else. Day to night, night to day, so forth. It's a magic second of change.
Rabbi, you know, you said before, you know, maybe it didn't even matter, but I come up with, in my head, it's blue. When it's blue, as they show, I can't, you know, you can't see the color of the bright, bright blue that so much of it is. And I just think a very visible stone with a lot of color, and it may have been easy to obtain. I don't, you know, that's a different way to look at it, but I would put that in there.
I just put in the chat, I'll try and share my screen so you all can see it. This is from, I'm sharing my screen now. So this is from BuzzFeed. It's fun. It's, can you tell the difference between black and blue? And then it gives you a series of colors and it asks you, is it black or blue? And it's really hard. Like I would say this one is black.
Yeah, and the next one's blue.
Yeah.
Oh, and the next one's blue. But in comparison to the one above, it didn't look blue. It was a darker blue.
Right.
And it looked more black than the one above it, which was a lighter blue. They're tricking you.
That's blue. That's blue.
When you look at it alone, it's blue. When you look at it with the next one that comes up.
All right. What is this one?
Well,
Blue.
I think it's blue also.
yeah, but when you look at it,
No, I know. That's black. That's black.
You're comparing it to the next one.
Right, and that's, yeah, on its own. This one's blue.
Yeah.
On its own, you can't really necessarily, because you
Blue.
also have to remember that colors on the computer are not true colors.
Right.
I have
Ah,
shared
I only got one wrong. I'm a black and blue expert.
Wow.
I have to invite you to my house every morning when I choose between black and blue pants. For the last 2 years, I haven't been able to tell the difference between navy blue and black, and I have to take them out near the window. So
Right.
Yeah,
seriously,
mix up
I
blue
could not
socks
tell on this screen which ones were other than black. They all look black to me.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Let's keep going. So verse 8. Oh God. Okay, here we go. This is a good one. Lenore, you want to read?
Sure. 8, and let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them.
Stop. Hold on.
I know it's another.
Make me a sanctuary. Make a sanctified home for my name. The word mikdash, which really means a holy space. Rashbam says, the word implies a place set aside for meeting. I will sanctify and prepare myself for them to speak from within it. There I will meet with the Israelites, and it shall be sanctified by my presence. Now that's interesting. Sanctified by my presence. So it's, when it says Asuli Mikdash, make for me a holy place. Okay, sorry. There are two different ways of understanding this. Number one, make for me a holy place. That is to say, we create a holy space into which God will dwell, or in which God will dwell. But Rashbam says, I'll meet with the Israelites there, and it shall be sanctified by my presence. It becomes holy, not when you make it, but when I show up.
Yeah, right.
So note that for his indwelling, God had specific requirements that needed to be followed precisely. The text does not tell of God dwelling in it, that is, in the sanctuary, but among them, that is, among the people Israel. The literal meaning of shachan is to rest, not to dwell. The sanctuary is not meant to be taken literally as God's abode. God dwells in heaven. The sanctuary makes tangible the concept of the indwelling of the divine presence, God's immanence in the camp of Israel, a presence to which the people may direct their hearts and minds.
So that all comes from the last word, which is weird. So again, Va'asuli Mikdash, make for me a holy place, Vishachanti, and I will dwell, or I will rest, Bitocham. Bitocham means in their midst. It doesn't mean in it.
Right.
Right? That's what it should say. Make me a holy place and I will dwell in it. But it doesn't say in it, it says in them. So not only is there a question about who makes this place holy, is it us or God, but also God doesn't even okay, one way to read this is make me a holy place and I will dwell in it. That is to say, I make it holy by my dwelling there. Another way to read it is make me a holy place. That is, you make a holy place, and then I will dwell in your midst. So that's to say, it's holy for you. It's actually holy having nothing to do with me at all. I'm not even there. I'm dwelling in your midst.
But what I read and what I understand is make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. I can if I want to, or I don't have to.
But Rashi just calls it a house of sanctity dedicated to my name.
In the same manner that I rested my presence on Mount Sinai, I shall rest it among Israel.
But what is the relationship to that and this mikdash?
The idea that, remember we talked last week about Mount Sinai itself was not holy. It was only holy when God was there.
Right.
So this is a place where God can visit, so to speak.
No, but God doesn't visit this place. God visits them.
But he visits them.
I may dwell among them. Yeah, I agree with you.
Go ahead, Dina.
It visits them in this place, from this place. just as the top of Mount Sinai was the place where God rested in order to, I don't know, dwell's not the right word, to be with Moshe, this is the place where he's going to rest to be with Israel.
Right. The problem is that's not what it says. It doesn't say God will rest in it. It says God will rest in
Well,
them.
among them,
But this
So
will be in the midst of them.
in the midst of, among.
So
Yes.
to me, this is a very strong argument in favor of synagogues, right? Because the argument against a synagogue is, why do I have to go to shul if God is everywhere? Right? I can meet God everywhere. And my answer to that is, God is everywhere, but I'm not. It's not that God needs a holy space. It's that I need a holy space. So when it says, make for me a mikdash, make for me a sacred space, you guys go there, and then I will dwell in your midst. It's not that I couldn't dwell without this place. It's that you can't dwell without this place. You can't experience me. I can't dwell in your midst if you don't carve out sacred space in your lives. No, I take that back. Sorry. I didn't mean that. You won't appreciate me dwelling in your midst if you don't carve out sacred spaces.
Okay, which is what Rashi says. The sanctuary was to be a structure dedicated to God's service. Elegant synagogues are meaningless unless they are built for the sake of God.
Right, but even there, sorry, not but, yes, and even there, service that's active on our part. That has nothing to do with God.
Right.
Right.
So Rashi also says that they were commanded to build a place to house the sanctity of God.
What does that mean?
Pretty much what you've been saying, I think. This is not a place where God visits or lives, dwells in his wholeness. Again, I think of God with many aspects to him, just like sparkles of different things. You know, it's a child's image, but that's the only way I can imagine that. And one of them is the holiness, the sanctity of Hashem. And so we can have that in this house when we go there.
Listen to this kind of parallel. Lenore, it's on the page 486. It's the note for 8 down at the bottom.
Okay.
Go closer to your microphone. Go closer to your microphone,
Who,
Dina,
me?
please. Yes, please. I can't hear you too well.
I'll turn
Okay.
you up.
God's presence is not found in a building. It is found in the hearts and souls of the people who fashion and sanctify the building. A midrash suggests that the tabernacle was fashioned to meet God's needs as well as Israel's. It tells of a king who gave his only daughter in marriage to a prince from another country. He told his daughter, "I cannot prevent you from moving away with your husband, but it grieves me to have you leave. Do this for me then. Wherever you live, build an apartment for me so that I can come and visit you." Thus, God says to Israel, "Wherever you travel, build a shrine for me that I may dwell among you."
Yeah, David.
Didn't we see your room last week, Freda?
You
That's
did,
right.
but then, Dahlia comes home and I get kicked out.
Oh, well.
That's Dahlia's room.
That's beautiful. The problem with it, of course, is that God isn't an earthly being that needs a physical space. Right?
How many times have we talked about whether God needs us or we need God? I mean, it works both ways. However,
well, no, God needs us. Oh no, I believe God needs us.
yes, but not in the same way that we need God.
Yes, but to me, that isn't the question. To me, the question is, knowing that God needs us, how does God access us and how do we access God?
This way.
And my argument is that God can access us however the heck God wants to. There is no limitation. God can be everywhere. we cannot access God everywhere, not because God isn't there, but again, because we're not fully there.
Which is why we need sacred spaces.
Exactly.
Spaces that we have set aside,
Times.
or set apart, not aside, set apart from the mundane in order for us to more easily access God.
Right. And
To
this,
concentrate. Yeah, it helps us get there.
right.
Concentrate or be holy.
And-
WHOLLY.
And this whole idea was recently challenged in a fantastic book called The Search for the Sacred, where the author argued that that space is not nearly as important, or was not nearly as important in later outgrowths of Judaism than it was in the biblical times. That when we were an agricultural people, when we were tied to the land, then it was far more important to have a physical space to go to than it became later on. Recommend the book.
Good 360. Good 360.
Thanks.
And for people who might be watching and on online now, the author of that book is?
That would be me. You know what else the other question this brings up for me is something that Dean, I know we've talked about 1.5 billion times, is the source of sanctity. You know, the source of holiness. What makes something holy? Is it God? Is it us? It's the question that I've always asked about the Torah, right? When the Torah comes around, why do we kiss it? Do we kiss it because it's holy intrinsically, or is it holy because we kiss it? Is Shabbat, the wonderful debate that Heschel seems to have within his book, The Sabbath, is Shabbat holy on its own? Because it's the first thing in the Bible that's called holy, or do we make it holy? And the same thing is true here. It says, you make me a holy space. That seems to imply that we do it. But then when Rashbam comes along and says, and it shall be sanctified by my presence, that makes it sound like God is the source of sanctity. I come squarely out on us. And we're the ones who bring sanctity to it. Because it takes two to tango. God's already there. God is like,
if it takes two to tango, then it's both of us, or
yes,
both the people and God.
So yes, and it is both of us, and God is always ready. God is holy potential, just waiting to come. The only variable is us.
Are we there?
The wonderful midrash about how God is always the first one at a minyan. At every minyan, God is always the first one. They're just waiting for 9 other people to join in to make a minyan. God is this holy potential so yes, it takes 2 to tango, but the only variable, the only questionable one, the only thing that we have control over is us, is whether we show up. Sorry, Lenore.
That's okay. I was going to say, in our world today, I truly believe that Jews, wherever they are, and they're not used to your newer concept of, maybe not having a temple as a building, whatever the reasons are, but that Jews absolutely focus on the temple as a place where they pray and have the meaning of God. I don't think most of them are there all over, not thinking of the temple. If they think, oh, I have to go to temple, or I want to go to temple, there's a reason for it, and God is the focus.
I agree with you. I agree 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's a terrible thing, because what it's done is it's robbed people of the challenge of finding God in their own lives when they're not at temple. We now have generations of Jews who think that God is only in the temple, and believe that you can only pray in the temple, and believe that the people who really know how to be Jewish work in the temple. And that's a terrible thing. So, but I agree with you. I think that most people do feel like the synagogue.
I don't disagree with you. I think there's a lot of issues around it, but as it is today, that's how it is. I mean, kids relate their religion to their temple or their church. I don't know how to say it any other way.
No, you're right. I agree with you. But what's fascinating about that, you know, back in the 90s, I guess it was the 90s, in the Jewish world, the big new push and the new jobs even were family education. And family education had really two purposes. One was they decided that it wasn't enough to just teach the kids. You have to teach the parents also. You have to teach them as a family. But the other goal was to remind people that Judaism is primarily a home-based religion. It's not a synagogue-based religion. And you know, we're taught that our homes should be a mikdash ma'at, a little tiny temple. Every home should be a little tiny temple. So I agree with everything you're saying.
It's rare that it happens that way. Unfortunately,
I disagree. I don't think it's rare amongst liberal Jews, but if you go into the Orthodox world or even the serious conservative Jewish world, their homes are absolutely. You know, just this morning, a friend of mine posted a challenge on Facebook. You know, Menachem and I have a song Olam Chesed Yibaneh, and so they posted a challenge. They said, for every person who makes a video of themselves singing the song, I'll donate $180 to some tzedakah. So lots of people have been making videos of this song. And just this morning, someone posted a video of their kid. He couldn't have been older than 4 years old, walking around the house with a guitar, a fake guitar, singing Olam Chesed, and going up to every member. The English is, I will build this world from love. And you must build this world from love. He goes up to every member of the family. He says, what do you want to build this world from? You know, that, and then at the end of the video, what does the dad say to the kid? He says, Yesher Koach, right? More strength to you. That home, that is a mikdash. That home is a sacred space where Torah is lived and learned and celebrated. So it does exist.
I agree. I'm not saying it doesn't, but that's a much smaller world than our current diaspora, wherever you are. I saw it from childhood too, because I had Orthodox grandparents, and my grandfather read the Torah every day in his own home. But it really branched out wider and wider till he was on the, the board for the. Finally, as a conservative temple came out, they realized they could not confine everybody to that life they were living.
Yeah. Yep. The conservative movement at its best, I think, if the conservative movement were really to embrace its core values, it would be a lot less like it is right now. Right now, the conservative movement is very much like the reform movement for all intents and purposes. I mean, everybody does whatever the heck they want. The 99.9% of conservative Jews believe that they have personal autonomy in their decisions around Jewish law. But at its best, if it were really to live up to I think its ideal, conservative Jews would look a lot more traditional than they do today. They would still be liberal-minded. You know, women would have full inclusion, and you know, they wouldn't be as strict. But it would be a very, very different kind of movement. And unfortunately, the conservative movement has decided that they want to be the big tent, which I don't think is the future of conservative Judaism.
You know, I was just sitting here and thinking how what Lenore was talking about, the change, in the way the Jewish families keep their homes and so forth, and why or how that came about. And it struck me that just like at my family, we're all separated. We're all apart. Those men, like Lenore's grandfather, also had a temple probably a block away from where they lived. And, very easily walked every day to their temple. And families used to congregate around that. Now that we are spread further from our children and our grandparents, those temples have declined. And so,
but I think my generation, we grew up, and I'm always very careful to say this because you hear so many people say they're 3-day-a-year shul-goers, 3-day-a-year Jews. We were 3-day-a-year shul-goers but we had a Jewish home. We observed all the holidays. We had a kosher home. You know, we observed Shabbos. Everything was in the house. We just didn't make it to the formal services.
Right.
So my home growing up, I can say, was a mikdash.
Was that, Dina, your father also? Like the men in your family also?
My father didn't have much training, but he, you know, and he did work. Did work Shabbos because that was his job. But no, and because he didn't have in my formative years, he didn't have much of a connection with the shul other than a brotherhood. So, you know, he was working Saturdays. He wasn't going to go to shul. Friday nights were always about the family around the table.
I see so many aspects to the splits in Judaism that it's amazing within the conservative movement, from almost there to orthodoxy, to way down to lower than most reform, and those in the middle who won't let go of the strict conservative ideal, which orthodoxy barely recognizes as anything that great as far as they're concerned, as far as observance. And to me, it's so split off, like my own temple. So it's very hard. I think about it a lot. And especially this gorgeous temple that my grandfather was involved in building was there until, I think it's about 7 years now, 6 years, and nobody lived there anymore. But you mentioned, Freda, the funny thing about people, you were mentioned walking to temple, not a funny thing, this gorgeous big temple. And they didn't build any space for cars because those who built it were from the Orthodox tradition. And so in our day, when of course everybody drove by car, everybody ended up parking in front of people's houses within 10 blocks of the temple. And the rest of, if you wanted to keep Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, we walked from our house, which is probably a little less than a mile. But that was considered a big deal. You couldn't, if you wanted to drive your car, you couldn't find a space. That was a big deal. And so anyway, the reason the temple, this gorgeous temple with gorgeous windows, stained glass dome, they had the neighborhood totally changed. Most of the Jewish people, not all, but most of them moved out of the city, which was Paterson, New Jersey, into the suburbs. They could not find a synagogue, a town council that wanted another synagogue. Well, that still exists, where they don't really like a synagogue being built in the area. Not so much as it used to be. But anyway, they got an old church, finished it, a really little temple, and they took with them all the stained glass, but they have only been able to use small bits of it, which do it no justice whatsoever when you see where they put it. I've never been to that new temple, but I've seen pictures of what they tried to do with stained glass windows that were big and tall, and put pieces of them into small places. But it's pathetic. And there's a website, it's Jewish Roots in Paterson, and all the people from maybe 10 years younger than I am to not too much older, but a little bit older, constantly pouring in with the old pictures of what it was, and what a shame. So the religion went with my generation, those before and those after, but most of those are now reformed. Those who have held on to conservative, it's much more liberal than it was orthodox.
Agreed. Anything else on this verse?
Oh, we made a long version of that.
I think I don't really have anything else on that, which is surprising to me, but that's okay.
You want to go ahead?
Yeah, let's do verse 9.
exactly as I show you, the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its furnishings, so shall you make it. How interesting. That's
The tabernacle and its furnishings are conceived of as earthly replicas of heavenly archetypes?
Yeah.
Or as constructions based on divinely given blueprints and pictorial representations. Both notions are found earlier in the ancient Near East and elsewhere in the Bible, Chronicles and Ezekiel.
Huh. A couple of different people say where it says exactly as I show you, the word show you. So the Hebrew is mar'eh otcha, which is from the word ro'eh, see. And so they explained that not only did Moses get a written explanation, but God showed him pictures of how everything should look. So apparently the Torah is a picture book.
Well, now Rashi has something interesting. In conformance is read as a continuation of the previous verse, beginning with, they shall make me a sanctuary, in conformance, although so that I may dwell among them breaks up the flow of the thoughts. So in other words, because that little phrase, so that I may dwell among them, really is interfering with verse 8's beginning, they shall make me a sanctuary, in conformance with all that I show you, which is the beginning of verse 9. Without Rashi's comment, we would read the entire verse as a complete independent sentence, in conformance with all that I show you, the structure of the Mishkan and its implements, so shall you do. As Rashi interprets the verse, see his next comment, the conclusion, and so shall you do, stands by itself. Wonder why that little phrase, that I may dwell among you, interferes with this sort of command.
I'm not sure I fully understood that, Mom. So is the suggestion that let's take out so that I shall dwell amongst you for a second. Is the suggestion that let them make me a sanctuary exactly as I show you, period?
It actually starts, yes, let them make me a sanctuary in conformance with all that I show you. In other words, leave out the phrase, so that I may dwell among them, and just connect verse 8 to verse 9.
But what's the problem with verse 9 sitting alone, according to
Well,
that?
it's just that Rashi is saying that so that I may dwell among you breaks up the flow of the thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, we have talked about how one verse can be in this time period and another verse in another time period. Could someone have injected that verse? You see, an editor or
Right.
Hashem or whoever, Moses.
Yeah.
Could it have been injected, and what was really meant was broken up by it because someone added it, or somehow it was added in there? And if it was an add-in, is that important or not, is my question.
Yeah. I'm looking for my version of the Torah that has the, who wrote what.
I've sent him to the library where we can't hear him anymore.
Sorry, I'm looking for my book that says who wrote what to see if they suggest that this was inserted.
It's kind of interesting. In my book, the Saperstein, the so that I may dwell among them portion of verse 8 is it is prefixed and suffixed by a long dash. What do they call that? An M dash?
Yeah, mine is too.
So that it really does make you wonder now about that phrase, and why would it be punctuated with that long dash at the front and the back?
Yeah, I have that as well.
Dina, did you read this from, I don't, where did you say the thing you read was from? Because the Exodus, the Eitz Chaim.
No, I'm not in Eitz Chaim, Lenore. I read it, and I read it from the Saperstein edition.
Okay, I understand what you said, Saperstein, but before that,
I think
you read something from someone else.
I read it from it was from Eitz Chaim. It was on page 487.
Where it says both notions are found earlier in the ancient Near East and elsewhere in the Bible.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I read.
That's what I thought.
I can never find anything I need.
So it's interesting because Rabbi, when you talked about the Rashi comment, you said my comment says that I show you the verses in the present tense to indicate that God showed Moses the form of each vessel as he gave him the commandments that are detailed. It doesn't say he showed him pictures. It just says he showed him.
Yeah, that was a commentary I had that the Holy One literally, this is from Rashbam, the Holy One literally showed Moses images of all the utensils and all the construction, just like the visions of God from Ezekiel, in which Ezekiel in Babylonia was shown the second temple.
Okay,
It was
so
explained to him by means of words as well.
okay, so it doesn't necessarily mean pictures on a piece of paper. It could be images that he planted in his head.
In his head,
Yeah.
And he was able to describe it. Maybe he could draw some of it. He described it.
I can't find this book. So frustrating. Oh well. Oh well. Here's just a fun thing. Let's see. That I may dwell among them, exactly as I show you here on the mountain, to receive their prayer and their service. That's from Sforno. This implies, now this comment is from Abarbanel, this implies that the construction of the tabernacle alludes to the form of the world. It is implausible that all of this could be specified just for the sake of ornamentation, though the allusions that Gersonides imagines he has found here are so absurd that I will not even dignify them with a response.
Wow.
Damn.
Really?
That's harsh. I don't know what his allusions are, but because they're not listed in here.
Mighty critical,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Okay. Should we do? Oh God! All right, now we're getting into the.
Yeah. Do we really want to start the arc?
We're getting into the weeds now.
Will you find that book before next week for me?
It's here. I don't.
No,
know.
I mean, not now find it, but maybe don't give up on looking for it.
Yeah.
I'd like to know about that little phrase.
Yeah, I would too. What the heck is this book called? I don't remember.
Oh, don't worry now. Don't worry now.
No, now I'm frustrated.
Okay.
Is it online or you don't know the name of it?
No, it's not online. You know I'm staring right at it. I just can't see it.
Yeah, it's paperback with a beige cover, right?
Is that what it is?
He hasn't said the title yet, Dina.
But I know what book he's talking about.
What is it?
Here's another name, Dina.
I don't know the name, but it's a book that breaks down the Torah by color according to supposedly the 4 authors.
Oh. So he's looking for who edited this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah,
Did you find it?
no. I know it's here.
Did somebody borrow it?
No, I don't think so.
He doesn't know where it is.
It's a paperback.
Okay.
She's in Boston. He's in Florida. It's a paperback.
That's a good way sometimes to find something.
Well, because he just pulled a hardcover off the shelf. That's why I said it.
I'm sorry I mentioned it. You have a whole week.
No, it's a really good. I found it.
And it's beige, Dina.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, the spine is gray.
black. Yeah. Actually, is that blue or black?
Black.
So
Okay,
what's
what
the
am I-
name of this?
The Bible with Sources Revealed by Elliot
Okay.
Friedman. All right, this is Exodus 25.
8 or 9.
Exodus
9, yeah, 8 and 9.
25. Nope, it's all one.
Well, but who did it though?
The priestly writer.
Well, that makes sense.
No
Yeah.
name. This is not-
Yeah, it's the priestly writer, and there's no chapter 25, the entire chapter, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, all the way through 31. They're all by the same author. I need to keep this book handy. All right, it's on the top shelf. Remember, it's on the top shelf.
Okay. Now watch, he'll clean the books and
I was
alphabetize them.
gonna say, one of his kids is going to come sneaking in there and rearrange the books.
Oh, my kids have no interest in my Jewish books, believe me.
Not even to screw you up by changing them around.
Not even to screw me up. All right, so we'll pick up next week at verse 10.
Okay.
Beautiful. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. You as well.